Having spoken about our military base, which was on the plateau near the Botswana border with the radar repeater station, I wish to mention a couple of other. These are true tales of my African adventures. May this inspire you, deter you, caution you, and above all, entertain you. Now, we had dog handlers who used to walk around the camp during the night with German shepherds. These were attack dogs, and they were quite big and they were fierce, and nobody liked the dogs if they weren't on their leash. And we had to be very careful because the dogs took great delight in attacking us if they got off the leash. Nobody got bitten in my time there, but boy, did they. You felt like you were being bitten just by looking at the dog showing its teeth and barking and running directly at you. But usually you could wake the guard up, because this happened when they fell asleep. You could wake the guard up and he would quickly give a command and the dog would stop. So from that point of view, we managed to keep things under control. It happened to me a few times. But on one occasion, I was walking up to this fellow and I couldn't see him anywhere. I knew where he was supposed to be. He had his section of fence that he had to check, and we had 24-hour shifts where we were not allowed to go to sleep, of course. Anyway, I went down and he had passed out, and his dog came at me, and it was pretty close, and they come at speed and it's dark and you just see this dark shape coming at you at speed, and I shouted on the top of my voice at the guard, using his name, of course, probably with a profanity or two at the time. And at the last moment he woke up and gave the command, and his dog stopped, snarling and dripping all sorts of disgusting liquids out of his mouth like drool. So I was safe. I warned him that if the dog ever got me, he'd be for the high jump. The poor old guard at the gate, though, he used to get it quite regularly because he was there all night. And if he walked inside the gate or outside of his guard hut and there was a dog loose, they would, I think it was a game for them at this point, they would make it a point of trying to go for him and get him. But he managed to get back in that guard hut every time. But he, for some reason, was extremely frightened of snakes. He just had this very, very, very terrible, unreasonable, completely unreasonable fear of snakes. They made him freeze. He, in fact, was the fellow who was at the gate when I returned one day carrying a large black mamba, which I'd caught and which I told you about in a previous video. And when I returned with that mamba, as I did later find out, he was the one who ratted me out to the officer in command, which got me into some trouble. Anyway, a python got its own back on him on my behalf, because I received a call from him one evening. It was a hot summer's night and he was stuttering with fear, and he asked me to save him, and that was the end. And I thought, poor guy is probably just being stabbed, strangled, shot, dragged off by a leopard or something, because I never heard such fear. And what had happened, while he was standing there, this very large python was coming directly towards the guard hut from the bush across the way, and it was probably 14 or 15 feet long. Very big, and they crawl very slowly when they're moving in that way, and it's almost imperceptible. He was standing behind the light and wasn't moving for some time, so the snake certainly hadn't seen him. And he, being probably dozy, hadn't noticed this inch by inch creeping of this gigantic python towards him. By the time he saw it, it was within, I guess about 2 or 3 meters of him, and he thought he was done for. He thought the snake had been creeping up on him and was now about to launch an attack. And he called me on his radio, and that's when he sounded like he was being murdered. He sounded completely like he had been taken out by something. And when I rushed over there was the python, and there he was in a jelly-like mess. And I thought, yeah, that'll teach you, for ratting on me. Anyway, I saved him. I caught the snake and went and released it. End of story.